For months, I've been obsessed with one question. How do you build a conversational AI that actually stays in a mission? Not just a chatbot that replies, but one that actively steers the conversation toward a goal. So I built one for my little sister's exam prep. Its job: first, ask for a name, then choose from a list of topics, then ask questions related to that specific topic that was chosen, and give instant feedback, summarize the session, all in the voice of a supportive best friend with the brain of a tutor. Let me show you how it works. So here we are in our assistance UI. I'm powering the front end using Chainlit. I have a separate video on how Chainlit works and how to use it. On the back end, I'm powering this using LangGraph. Let's just start and say hi. So as you can see, right after I said hi, it says, "Hey there, MG, your chill tutor. I'm excited to start our quiz session together. Before we begin though, can you please tell me your name?" So as you can see, it replied me saying hi first and then directed the conversation by saying, "Can you please tell me your name?" What I'm going to do is, let me just say, for example, my name is Kia. And now as you can see, remember it says, "Hey Kia, I've got your name. Let's pick a topic. Which one are you interested in?" So it gave me the list of the topics to choose from. And these are topics that are based on UK's GCSE computer science exam. So let me just say data. Now, one other thing to note is I could choose the topics using numbers, or I could just choose the topic using the name of the topic. So I'm going to say data. You've chosen data. Topic. Here's your first question. What do you know about binary representation? I'm going to paste I'd answer first. Binary representation is like how computers store data and something. So you can see it says, "You are right, Kia." And now here's your next question. This is what I mean when I say a proactive agent. It directs the conversation to the next question. Let me answer with the wrong answer. So I'm going to say data storage is like when you save some stuff, and then let me enter. And then you can see, let's try again. So here's the same question. So right now, instead of moving on to the next question, it repeated the same question. So what do you know about data storage and compression? So what I'm going to do is, now I'm going to paste in the right answer. So I'm going to say, okay, so data storage is like when all the stuff you save, blah, blah, blah. And then right now you can see, now that my answer was correct, here's your next question. What do you know about encryption? Let me paste in the answer. And as you can see, you said encryption, you're on a roll. Here's your next question. So now, instead of asking me another question, what I said is, let's go into the summary and up your session. You've got all your questions correct. However, I noticed that you had a little trouble with the data storage and compression. It's basically the question that we put the wrong answer to. I hope now you have an idea of how a proactive should work. Let's move on to the architecture of this proactive AI agent. It's the architecture of our system, or the brain of our quiz buddy AI agent. Now, it starts with the human sending in a message, and then the first node that the message goes through will be the planner. And with the planner, so the planner's role is to decide what to do next in our conversational dialogue. Should we ask for a name? Should we ask for a topic? Or should we ask, for example, should we ask the first question? Its role is to decide what are we going to do next. And then it goes to the executor. Now, the executor's job is actually execute what the planner decided to do. For example, if the planner decided to ask for a name, there is a field called, which I'm going to show you in the coming clip, called quiz state. Now, the quiz state is the field that decides which state are we on now. Are we asking for a name, or are we asking for a topic, or are we giving a feedback about the question? Now, after that, there is a conditional edge. Conditional edge is after the executor. Do we go to the evaluator? Did we ask for a question we want to evaluate, or do you actually want to go to the responder? For example, let's look at the first example. The human said hi. The planner actually decides what to do next. So it says, okay, so this is the first time I am interacting with this human. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a name, and it goes to the executor. The executor sets quiz state to waiting for a name, and then it comes here. So human haven't entered an answer that we want to evaluate to, so it goes straight to the responder, and then the responder acts in a friendly tone to provide for a name and then show it to the human. And that's exactly how this whole thing works. So let's jump into when the user provides an answer and then goes to the planner, and then the planner says, okay, we need to actually go to the evaluator to evaluate the answer that we just received from the human, and then it goes to the executor. The executor sets quiz state to waiting for an evaluator, and then comes back, it comes here, and then Now it goes to the evaluator evaluates the answer and then goes back to the planner, and then the planner says, okay, next we want to give the feedback to the user, and then executor executes and sets the quiz state waiting for the feedback. For example, the user is waiting for feedback, and then it comes here and then it goes to the responder, and then it gives the human the final answer, which is going to be the feedback. So this is how the overall architecture works. And what I've learned from this experiment is how important is the planner. We're going to talk more about this in the coming session where we're going to look at the LangGraph code. But I think this changed my perspective on how to build autonomous agentic architectures. Let's move on and look at the back end of our system. So we're going to start with the state, and these are the fields that we have in our state, but the most important field that I want to explain, as we explained in our architecture, is the quiz state. Now, quiz state could contain multiple values. Awaiting name. Now, if our state is the awaiting name, what the responder will do is it will ask the user for a name. If our quiz state is awaiting for a topic, what our responder will do is it will ask for a topic. Now, awaiting for an answer, it means that we're awaiting for an answer from the user, and awaiting for an evaluation, that means the user is waiting for an evaluation, and session complete, it means our session is complete. Now, based on these fields, these are basically the stages where our dialogue will go through, and the goal is to reach the session complete. There are other fields that is notable here, like current plan, which is going to be updated by the planner, and execution results, which is going to be updated by the executioner or executor, and other field, the next node, which is going to be updated by the planner to decide which node are we going to go to next. I don't know if I'm using it in this app. Topics, which is going to hold a list of topics, and current topic, which is going to hold the current topic that we are preparing quiz questions from, and score, which will hold the score of our quiz session. Now let's move on and look at the graph and nodes to understand more. Let's look at our LangGraph setup in detail. So as we explained it before, we have multiple nodes in here, which is based on our architecture design that we just saw. Right after we receive the humanist message, the first node that the message is going to go through will be generate plan. In this node, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to extract the state information that we just received into, and for we store all of those information in the variable. We're going to go and then execute or pass those information or feed those information into our planner. So what I'm doing is I'm creating something called planner chain, or let's go to our create planner chain. This is where we're executing. So I'm using Grok Llama 70 billion versatile from Grok to execute the planner. And let's look at our prompt, so which is in the learning session orchestrate. This is the role. I don't want to go through it in detail. I'm gonna share the link of the GitHub with you so you could go all of it in detail. With the planner is it's gonna decide which step are we going to take next. Are we gonna ask for a name, or are we gonna ask for a topic, or are we gonna evaluate, or are we gonna give the feedback to the user, or are we going to give the summary of the session to the user? So here I'm saying this is an executes flashcard learning session by analyzing both conversation history and data inputs, and then optimizes learning outcome through adaptive session. I'm still not proud of prompt yet. Now let's move on and go to the next one, which is available tools. So basically the planner's job is to decide, oh, this is where we're gonna do next, and this is the tools that are we gonna be using next. So for now we only have two main tools. Number one is bulk set state, next one is populate flashcards, and we want to run this after the user selects the topic ID that they want to quiz from. So what the system will do is, or what the populate flashcard would do is, it would go to our DB, we have SQLite in here, and then it will actually go to our database and then find flashcards or questions that are related to the topic that was chosen, and then populate those retrieved flashcards into our flashcard state field. Now the data inputs that I'm saying to the planner that you're gonna receive will be the topics, the flashcard state, which has these fields, the current topic IDs, score, blah blah, all of that. Now after that we have another section that's called state machine, which is basically the steps or the stages that our dialogue will gonna go through, that you're gonna need to force the user to go through. This is the output format. Now this was based on some kind of research paper that I read that was about plan and execute. I will be sharing it into the description. Multiple examples that I'm using in here. So example one is the initial quiz request. For example, somebody said hi or something, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say initialize quiz session and request user's name. So we don't, this is the first user, and the user said, for example, I would like to take a quiz, or for example, hi. So this is basically the first message, and the output that I want you to output as the planner, this is me talking to the planner through the prompt, and it says, for example, initialize quiz session and request username. Of course, it's not gonna output exactly the same, but it's just gonna get the point. Is, for example, if this is the first time we interacted with the user, just ask for a name. And then this is the second example, which is the topic selection. If the user, for example, answer for their name, and I don't know, but I'm still not proud, even though I spent so much, but I learned so much after I finished the whole app, and I'm too lazy to go back to this because I'm focusing on another project. But this could have been much better and much more efficient. These are basically an examples that make my planner even more reliable. Now that we looked at our planner prompt, as you could see, this is the planner chain, which will be executing the prompt that we just saw along with all of those data. And then of course, after we execute our planner agent or node, we first parse the plan response that we just received from the planner chain. And then after that, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna set the plan that we just received from the planner. And now after we parse the response from the planner, from the LLM planner, what we're going to do is, if we already had for example previous plan, we're going to set our previous plan state field, and then after that we're going to set our current plan, which will include the steps, for finally return the updated state that include the updated current plan and the updated previous plan. Now after we set our current plan and we return the new state, now it comes to the execute plan. So this is the executioner or executor node, and inside what we're going to do is we're going to receive the string that we have, or basically retrieve the string that we have inside our state. Of course, our execute plan will receive the state field. What we're gonna do, then go through each step in our current plan and then call out the tool inside our current plan, and then along with its input value. For example, if the tool name inside the current plan inside the steps is bulk set state, then we're going to call our bulk state along with the tool input and the current state. After we do that, so the execute plan is responsibility is to execute every order that was generated by the planner. After we execute the plan, now we're either gonna go to the respond or evaluate, and that will be decided by this conditional edge. Conditional edge responsibility is to just check what we have in the quiz state. So if our quiz state says, okay, waiting for evaluation, that means the user is waiting for evaluation, it will return the evaluator. If not, for example, if the quiz state is not equal or waiting for evaluation, then we're gonna return a responder. I hope you understood what this conditional edge is trying to do. Now, if our conditional edge returns an evaluator, it's gonna go to the evaluator node. So let's look at the evaluator node. Now, the main function that our evaluator node is doing is extracting the user's answer first from field called flashcard states. After it extracts the user's answer from there, it passes that answer into an evaluator chain which its inside has an evaluator prompt, which I would like you to see is the evaluator prompt. So it's my sister's GCSE exam, which is an exam that's based in the UK. Now I've set the evaluation rules in here, and I've also set the input format. So you will receive the question, the full question that we need to evaluate, and you will also receive a marking criteria, which is something I've also specified, and then you will also receive the student's answer. So what I want you to do is evaluate based on those input format. So the output format that I need you to produce will be a JSON object with these fields. Result field, which will contain, is the answer correct, or is it partial, or is it incorrect. Now, the other field that I also need you to include will be the score field, which is 1.0, 0.8, 0.9, and these are all other, and these are, of course, other specifications. And finally, what I need you to include is the feedback. This is the feedback that we will be showing to the user, which will include, like, for example, what are the things that the user are wrong or got right, or what she could do better next time. And finally, return the updated state along with the evaluation result. Now, after that, of course, it's going to go back to the planner. But right now that you've understood everything about the evaluation, then the planner will decide to show the result of the evaluation to the user, and then it would finally come to the response. So the response only job is to read our state fields if the user just was asked the question, if the user was just answered the question, and this is the most important prompt. So let's look our responder chain, which will include the responder prompt. Now, the core identity for our responder prompt is you are a chill tutor, a funny, emotionally intelligent best friend. This is the core identity. So the core mission is make the user feel like you are their hilarious, hype-giving BFF who love learning together by curating a response. Communication style that we need to do is use emojis. So the goal of your response will be write a text response based on the data inputs and your conversation history with the user that aligns with your call identity, communication style, and mission. Now, these are the rules, and these are one of the other lessons that I've learned from this project. Is sometimes the LLMs do so much better if you give them some kind of a plan. For example, right now, what I want this responder to do is to first analyze the input fields, especially one by one, and which is main input field, which is the quiz state, analyze it, and then I'm going to go to step 2 and analyze the data inputs, and then there's case 1 and the case 2, and finally I'm going to generate the response based on the analyzed input. So it took me a few days to develop this, but I think this is the core personality of our AI agent. Now, let's finish this video with the lessons that I've learned from this project, right? The most important lesson that I've learned, which I have already mentioned before, planning is the most important component of any autonomous agent. And the most important thing that it adds to your agentic system is handling the user's unexpected input. I cannot emphasize on this enough. The second one is, which is the control autonomy. If giving the agent a list of defined phases, but letting it decide which one to trigger next, that is the controlled autonomy that I'm talking about. And of course, that's the kind of a control and flexibility I've been trying to build for ages. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.